an untruth or a falsehood. This was just a mistake on his part, Robert Litt said. We all make mistakes. The ruling sends the case back to the district court for further proceedings.
If past practice is any lesson, Congress will wait until the spying program is about to expire, and then in a panic, to frighten the American people into accepting more intrusions on their privacy. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has already put forth a new bill as a stopgap measure to allow time for a fuller debate on the issue. His stopgap? A 5-year reauthorization with no changes to the current program.
Section 215 of the Conspicuously Subversive Patriot Act, commonly referred to as the Library Records Provision. 215 allows the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, as applied by the Director of the FBI or an official designated by the Director, access to tangible things deemed under investigation. This investigation must be conducted in accordance under the guidelines laid out in Executive Order 12333 and must not be carried out on citizens whose activities are protected by the First Amendment. All orders must be granted by a FISA court judge. This breach of trust by the federal government was exposed by whistleblowers and undermined by the intelligence community on a massive scale.
I made the statement about that the greatest threat to our constitutional form of government since the Civil War is what's happening now in terms of spying in the United States. And that's the domestic spying program, Stellar Wind, that they've started in secret and have been running in secret. So they're violating the constitutional rights of everyone. First Amendment rights that are violated because you have the right under the First Amendment to have a free association. It doesn't say you have the right to free association as long as the government knows about it. That's a direct violation of that one.
Meanwhile, the mouthpieces of the American counter-terror movement project the PSYOP needed for the unconstitutional legislation. Expect to see more blatant extortion thrown at the feet of the American people. Threats like these will increase as the scrutiny of unconstitutional surveillance grows.
Is the U.S. the new front line in the fight against ISIS?
Well, we're certainly vulnerable, and this is all part of ISIS's strategy of conveying a winner's message.
The motive is let them attack, have the mainstream media never point out that our own governments funded them, created them, protected them, and allow them to attack, and then bet your bottom dollar we're going to be attacked when more attacks happen, Paul, for pointing out that our government allowed it to happen bare minimum.
Here's a tweet. Americans take pride in carrying handguns. What's your little gun going to do when an IED explodes, spraying shrapnel faster than sound? So they're now demonizing the Second Amendment.
Oh, they're total cowards. Exactly. And our government's going to say, roll over, give your rights up when we get attacked. When we get attacked by their ISIS slobs, we're going to hold our traitorous government accountable. We're putting the narrative out now, and we've been doing it for 4 years. So when your jihad force, globalist, hits America and the Europe, you're going to get the blame. You hear that, Obama? You hear that, Henry Kissinger? You hear that, all of you? Northcom, Southcom? You're going to get the blame.
Intelligence community, please explain how a Subway restaurant worker has her Twitter and Facebook accounts immediately shut down after supporting the heinous murder of 2 police officers in Mississippi, but ISIS member accounts are allowed to stay online to threaten the global populace at will. John Bound, INFOWARS.com.
Late last month, world-renowned physicist Stephen Hawking appeared before the Sydney Opera House via hologram from his office back in the University of Cambridge in Britain, and basically told the audience there that the human race has about 1,000 years left. In fact, here's his actual quotes. He said, "We must continue to go into space for the future of humanity. I don't think we will survive another 1,000 years without escaping beyond our fragile planet." And he was trying to appeal to people to get more into science and to look at these other problems that will occur when we try to go off-world, and let's start thinking about them now, so when it's time to go off-world, we can do it.
We have a rather ambivalent attitude to science at present. We have come to expect a steady increase in the standard of living that science and technology have brought, but people distrust science because they don't understand it or feel they can control it.
Well, Alex Jones had a rebuttal. He came back with a video titled, "The Ultimate Threat to Humanity is Looking at Us in the Mirror." And he put this out the day after Hawking made his 1,000-year announcement. And Alex was a lot more pessimistic. He says, we don't have 1,000 years if we don't get this right. We're going to have about 50. In fact, here's a little bit from Alex's piece, and I'm actually going to put the entire link down here at the bottom so you can go watch it. It's a great piece. It's one of those awesome crossroad pieces that Alex does, kind of an open letter to humanity. So here it is.
The safest thing to do is to launch space colonies. The safest thing to do is colonize the moon and Mars. The safest thing to do is to create diversity of human ecosystems and terraform nearby planets. Plus, that is the classic human activity, is exploration, is discovery. We are at an embryonic phase. I hope we don't abort our species before we actually get out of the womb. We should love our mother. We should take care of the earth. But we should realize that we must transcend the technocracy that is attempting to play God if we're going to make it to the next level. Stephen Hawking wanted to be safe when he said 1,000 years. I'll guarantee you if he was probed deeper, he would agree it's more like 50.
Well, apparently Stephen Hawking is a fan of Alex Jones because he just came out at the Zeitgeist 2015 conference in London and had this to say. From Daily Mail, our robot overlords will take over in 100 years. Stephen Hawking warns computers could control humans within a century. Basically, he's talking about a robot uprising that he thinks will occur if we don't contain artificial intelligence. Computers will overtake humans with AI at some point within the next 100 years, he said, according to a report in Tech World. When that happens, we need to make sure that computers have goals aligned with ours. Our future is a race between the growing power of technology and the wisdom with which we use it. And he's not the only one to say this. Elon Musk has come out and said we need to be very wary of AI. Steve Wozniak, the co-creator of the Apple Computer Company, has said there's a future and it's with robots and it's not designed for us. And this is something we really have to start looking at and start talking about now before it gets to the point where the AI computers are taking over. We just played a clip earlier in the week of a Colonel Potosik, who's head of the Asymmetrical Warfare Group in Fort A.P. Hill, talking about how they have autonomous robots walking around acting as citizens or soldiers, however they are programmed.
But when you talk about soldiers operating within an environment where they're civilians, one of the things we're looking at here at Fort A.P. Hill is a program of using autonomous robots. Essentially what we do is we've taken a number of robots that can operate independently, walk up and down these streets. We can dress some up in uniforms, we can dress some up in civilians' clothes, and we can use that as a chance here at A.P. Hill to train our soldiers how to discriminate between friendly forces, forces that may be evacuated. And that's just one of those great things that we're able to do at A.P. Hill.
And by using the word autonomous, he means that they have their own kind of artificial intelligence. So this is already happening. And if you believe that the Boston Dynamic cheetah robots and the mule robots are what's out there, you're wrong. I mean, we are light years ahead of that right now, if you think that that is the cusp of technology. It's really, really disturbing of the future that may behold us if we don't really take a look at these questions and start asking the real hard questions and start holding our leaders accountable. If AI goes out of control, do we have anything in place at this point? We don't. But I think it's just really interesting that Stephen Hawking seems to be a listener of Alex Jones, and he's come out and said, no, I don't mean 1,000 years. We've now got 100 years to get this right, or we're doomed. You know, just think about 100 years ago, 1915. What was going on? We had World War I. Flight was just happening. They were doing some aerial battles in flight, but all this stuff was brand new. There was no internet. There was a lot of stuff that we didn't have that we now take for granted. Now we carry around our phones in our pockets, and they're basically little supercomputers that track us everywhere we go. So we have the cloud, which we never had. You know, nobody even thought of the cloud 10 years ago. Now everything is uploaded to the cloud. Everything can be downloaded from the cloud, and it's just a hacker's paradise. So we have to start asking these questions now, especially about this AI technology. Are we going to let it rule us, or are we going to rule it? And are we going to use it in the right way? Are we going to use it to help us get to places that we can only dream of now? So maybe in 100 years, we're not fighting with AI. We're working together with it to go to the stars, to build those space colonies, to mine asteroids, to do the things we were meant to do as humans. So you need to ask yourself these questions as well. And please put what you think down in the comments below of this video. This has been Rob Dew for InfoWars.com and InfoWars Nightly News. If you enjoy reports like these, please consider becoming a member of PrisonPlanet.tv. It supports everything we do here. And your subscription can be used and shared with up to 20 people. So you can have 20 InfoWarriors on using your username and password on the system at the same time. It's a great way to spread the word, and it supports everything we do here. Thank you.
So remember to look up at the stars and not down at your feet. Try to make sense of what you see and wonder about what makes the universe exist. Be curious.
Well, it turns out that almost everything that the American public was told about the raid that killed Osama bin Laden was one big fat lie. And of course, this is something that we here at INFOWARS have been saying from the very beginning, and that is the fact that the bin Laden raid was nothing more than political theater. It was designed to boost President Barack Hussein Obama's military credentials and keep those American flags waving in support of the war on terror, the never-ending war, sponsored by the military-industrial complex. Up until now, most people who watch a lot of TV anyway, well, they bought the official version of the story hook, line, and sinker. They believe that the Navy SEALs went into Pakistan, they raided the bin Laden compound, got in a huge firefight, and killed the world's most dangerous terrorist in a fierce battle. All of this, of course, under the watchful eye of the Obama administration, who watched the drama unfold live in real time from the Situation Room in the White House. We were then told by the Obama administration that bin Laden had been positively identified through a DNA test. I guess they had a DNA lab test kit out there in the field. And then, in accordance with Islamic burial rituals, he was buried at sea. And if you believe that, I think you're spending way too much time in the Matrix, because this entire story is a bunch of BS. And I think the red flag for most of us critical thinkers, most of us conspiracy theorists, and that was when the administration was claiming that they buried Osama bin Laden's body at sea. I mean, that is ridiculous. To me, it sounds like something that maybe George Bush's handlers would have thought up, but not Barack Obama. He's usually a little more slick than that. And I can't help but thinking about, I don't know if you ever saw comedian Doug Stanhope. He's the one who said, "We finally caught the Bigfoot of terrorists, yet nobody bothered to take a picture of him, and they dumped his body into the ocean." I mean, think about it. It really doesn't make any sense. But this is what you're expected to believe, and unfortunately, much of the American public still buys what is being spoon-fed to them by their television sets, but slowly but surely, the truth is finally starting to come out. And now we've got Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative journalist Seymour Hersh, who is very well known and respected among mainline journalists anyway. Well, he says that he has uncovered one of the biggest lies in modern American history, and that the bin Laden raid was a work of fiction, and that the Obama administration fabricated the story. I'm glad you finally caught up to us, Seymour. What took you so long? And as expected, you know, it didn't take very long for the mainstream media to send out their attack dogs against Seymour Hersh. I mean, he's been viciously attacked, and there's a huge backlash on against him for reporting on all this. But, you know, I got to hand it to the guy. He's really sticking to his guns. And his investigation has uncovered some very interesting facts about the bin Laden raid.
I mean, why would there be this? What you're alleging is a massive conspiracy involving what would have to be dozens of people in 3 different countries that has sustained itself until now. What would be the motive for setting up this elaborate hoax?
And, you know, watching Anderson Cooper right there, you know, these mainstream guys are so predictable. They always ask the same questions. How could that many people have kept a secret? You know, somebody would have talked, that sort of thing. And then he follows it up with basically a direct punch to the face, because he's insinuating next that by not believing the official narrative, that somehow disrespects the troops.
I mean, there are actual members of SEAL Team 6, Matt Bissonnette, Robert Neal, who've gone public, have said that the raid did in fact happen basically as the government said. Their comrades put their lives at risk, were shot at in the compound. Right. There were bullet holes all over the place. Are you saying they're lying?
I'm saying, I can tell you one thing. I don't know about O'Neill. And Neil said we went in thinking we were going to die, which I think is a great exaggeration. And Bissonnette, who also wrote the book, I think No Easy Day or something like that, certainly was not telling the truth about that.
So there you go. Anderson Cooper asking all the same questions